Today I'm going to talk about Chapter 5, Lesson 1, Measuring Angles. Before I start reading this part, I want to tell you what is an angle is. Okay, so angle, if you look at this figure, whenever two line segments meet each other at a point, which is called point B, they make up an angle. Let me show you the angle over here. This is the angle. So this is angle B. We have ABC. AB is a line segment and BC is also a line segment. When they connect at point B, they make up angle ABC. Okay, so this is the angle. If you look at the figure, whenever two line segments meet at a point, which is this point, that point, they make up an angle. And the angle over here in the figure is 30 degrees. So this is an angle. How to measure it? For measuring angle, we use a unit. The unit, for example, we write 30 degree. The degree is the measurement of an angle. And also the symbol of it, let me show you. This is the symbol of an angle. Okay, and how can I use? What tool I use to measure angle? We use a protractor. This is a protractor. We use the protractor for measuring angle, but how? If you look at the protractor, what do you see? We have a straight line and also a half circle. That half circle here has measures on it. It starts from 0, from left side, from 0 to 180, because a straight line measurement is 180 degree. And also if you look at this small circle, from 0 to 180 degree. Okay, so for example, how can I measure this figure? Look at this figure. X, Y, and Z. How can we figure that? How can we measure that figure? First, you put the protractor. There is a hole in here, the protractor hole on the vertex. Then you put this line on the protractor, and this one will tell you the angle measurement. So here, if we start from 0, it would be how much? 120 degree. So angle XYZ measurement is 120 degree. We write it like that. So we use protractor for measuring angle. As you can see over here is written. Now look at the first example. It says use a protractor to find the measure of each angle. We put the protractor over the center, like here on the center M. Then we measure. If we look at section A from the first example, DMG. Where is DMG? This is DMG. It means we have to find this angle. How can I find that angle? Like I said, we put the protractor hole on that vertex, which is M, the other side of the protractor on line MG, and then we will figure out the other one, which will make it 30 degree. Same thing we do repeat. For example, section B, GMB. Let's find GMB. GMB, that means this angle. Same thing, we put the vertex, the whole of the protractor on the vertex M, then the other side of MB, and we can figure out the degree, which is 45 degree. Okay, so DMB, same thing, DMB, let me show you. DMB, that was 45 and that was 30. GMB was 35. Was 45, and DMG was 30. Together, when you plus it, you get 75 degree, even if you don't use the protractor. And it says at the section D, GMF. Let's find GMF. GMF, there is a straight line. Whenever you have straight line, the angle would be 180 degree. So the angle measure for a straight line is always 180 degree. That is the first example. The main goal of the first example is how to use a protractor for measuring angle. Now here we have adjacent. What does adjacent word mean? We have two types of angles. The first one is adjacent angle. Adjacent angle are those angles that are neighbors. Let's say they are neighbors, like this one. This angle and this angle. They are neighbors, they are beside each other. In a professional definition, we would say there is a common line and a common vertex. Where is the line? This is the line. And the common vertex, this is the common vertex, and this is their common line. So this angle would be adjacent with that angle. We can say, in short, they are neighbors, neighbor angles. Then we have another word over here, which is written congruent. What does congruent mean? Congruent means the angles are equal. Congruent in mathematics means equal. So here we have a theorem, a postulate. Theorem means a sentence that scientists proved that before. Okay, so here the postulate says what? If two angles are congruent, then they have the same measure. Congruent means what? Means equal. So that means if these two angles are congruent, that means they have the same measurement. How? Let me show you. For example, we have this. This is a 90-degree angle, this figure, and this side is also a 90-degree angle. Okay, this angle is equal to that angle. Since they are equal, that means both are 90 degree. They have the same measurement. So they are congruent. Okay, so this is obvious. Now the second part, if two angles have the same measure, then they are congruent. So if we have these two angles and they are both 90 degree, we can name these two angles are congruent. And also the opposite way is correct. If they are congruent, that means they have the same measurement. Okay, now let's move to example 2, identifying adjacent angles and congruent angles. We have two types of angles for now. Adjacent angles, two angles that are beside each other. Look at the example now, I just draw it. This one. We have two angles. They are both beside each other. They are both neighbors. There is a common line, which is this one. This line, and a common vertex, which is this. That point. So in the same time, that angle, that example are congruent angles and adjacent angles. Now Now, in example 2, I talked about the postulate and the theorem. I said if two angles are congruent, then they have the same measurement. Congruent means equal. And the opposite statement is also correct. If two angles have the same measure, then they are congruent. That is pretty obvious. Now, in example 2, what is important in this chapter? The figure is really important. Look at the figure. What do I have? Line LN, line KB, and a straight line MD that will cut KB line. Okay, let's look what angle is given. Angle NDB is given, and angle KDL is given. They are both 45 degrees. And section A of the example says, name two adjacent angle. So we said adjacent angle is what? Two angles that are beside each other. So we can say, for example, angle NDB is adjacent with NDM. How can we write that? We will write for the adjacent angle, we write NDB, the angle, is adjacent to angle NDB. Sorry, we have NDB is adjacent to NDM. So like that, angle NDB is adjacent to NDM. So look in the example, MDN and MDK. Do we have any other adjacent angle? Yes, we have. We can also say MDK is adjacent with KDL, or KDL is adjacent with LDB. They are beside each other. LDB angle, I mean this angle, is adjacent with that one. This and this are adjacent together. This angle is adjacent with this one. This angle is adjacent with this one and also with this one. So neighbor angles are all adjacent. Okay, now let's look at section B. Name two congruent angles. Congruent angles, what do we mean by? Two angles that they have the same measurements, like KDL and NDB. They're both 45 degrees. So that means angle NDB with angle KDL are both 45 degrees. That's it. We just write it like that. Now section C, MDN and DNB are congruent. Congruent, that means they are equal. So NDB is 45 degrees. MDN is how much? Also 45. Why? Because it is given. So since it is given, this is also 45 degrees. Okay, it is given that they are equal. Now it says what? Find MDB. Where is MDB? Their total. It says find MDB. This one together. This is 45 and this is 45. Together it will make up how much? 45 plus 45, 90 degrees. Over here. Okay, now section D, show that MDN and KDL are congruent. Let's look at the figure again. And it says MDN and also KDL. In the preview section C, it was given MDN was 45 degree. So they are equal according to